Welcome back, Warrior Fam.
Yay!
We're so excited that you're here with us this week.
Hmm.
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 The best. We just had the most freaking fantastic guest ever join us for today's episode.
Yes. Freaking fantastic.
Freaking fantastic. Back to the alliteration.
Yes.
Her name is Christy Parisi. And before Abby jumps into her recap, let me let you all know a little bit about who Christy is.
Mm-hmm.
Christy Parisi is a single mom, special education teacher, blogger, and part-time singer in an emo pop punk band. After separating from her husband, she was determined to make this life transition as comfy and peaceful as possible for herself and for her son. She began sharing on Instagram all the little ways that she did just that, painting the kitchen, floor, wallpapering, etc., and putting personal, practical, and eclectic touches on everything. Her goal is to provide a safe haven, a place to decompress from the demands and ups and downs that is everyday life. Christy wants her son and everyone to know that self-care is never selfish, as well as the importance of setting boundaries and taking time to rest and recharge. It's what allows her to be the best version of herself for her friends, family, and her little boy. All right, so Abby, let's hear about this chat.
Yes. So such a good chat. I say it every single week. But like I said it, I feel the connection. I feel like that heart to heart connection. And I'm so grateful to connect with Christy and meet Christy, and thank you, Instagram. There's good things that come from Instagram. Mm-hmm. So Christy starts off by sharing how growing up, she didn't necessarily have the language as a preteen and a teen for her experiences, but ultimately her anxiety mixed with OCD really made it challenging for her to maintain relationships. She shared a super relatable story about how, she would like leave parties and then the overthinking of how she acted in the party, how people received her, and all of that would come up. And it wasn't until later in life where she was diagnosed with anxiety, OCD, and depression. She shares, the interesting way in which anxiety and OCD and depression show up differently, but then how they all also like influence each other and impact each other depending on how she's feeling. She shares how, for her, she's really learned and embodied how self-care isn't selfish. And part of her practice is really being able to show up for herself and companion herself and check in with how she's doing. But also with the reminder that healing is not linear, that there's peaks and that there's valleys, and that, she's really practicing going with the flow and being present and centered during it. She's just a radiant being. And it was just such an absolute joy connecting with her. Even though we talk about challenging things, we were able to do it with this like lightness and seeing each other and understanding, like this deep understanding and connection during it. And I just really value this conversation.
Yes, me too. It feels like such an intense honor, right? To be able to sit with and listen to and ask questions about and hold space for other anxiety warriors. And we certainly felt that. And the joy just radiates from Christy, even talking about such heavy stuff like anxiety and depression and OCD and all the things. And so, warriors, we know that you are going to love this conversation. Yes. Without further ado, here's the show. Welcome back, warriors.
Yay.
We are so excited to welcome today's guest, Christy. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yay.
We're so honored that you decided to be a part of our warrior fam. You and I connected on Instagram not too long ago, and I just honestly fell in love with you a little bit since then. You were just so fun and warm, and even though we were total Insta strangers, I felt like, okay, I can connect with this girl.
Oh, I feel the same way. I really do. I feel like I tell you guys all the time, but I really love what you guys are doing here. And I just love that we were able to connect. So I'm so happy. I'm so honored to be doing this right now.
Oh, yay. It means the world to us. Thank you. All right. So let's just dive right in, Christy. Tell us a little bit about how anxiety has shown up in your life.
Okay, so I guess starting from the beginning, when I was like a preteen to teen, I kind of like struggled with like maintaining relationships. I was quite the overthinker, overanalyzing everything. Doing one of those like you go to like a party and then on the way home you overanalyze every little single thing that you said, and oh my gosh, did I insult anyone? So that like has like was really hard to like maintain relationships because I always felt like I was analyzing everything, not only what I was doing, but how other people were reacting. And oh my God, is that person mad at me? And adding to that, I, at my home life um, wasn't really, I guess, conducive to understanding my anxiety and learning how to live with it. And granted, though, back then things were much different than now. I know, like before, we were saying it's so nice that we can like openly talk about this and feel comfortable doing so, and how much it helps people. But I was quite the opinionated teen and preteen. I didn't have a baseline of how to appropriately express how I was feeling.
Mhm.
So I, would express my opinions and my feelings in like probably not the most polite of ways or all the time, because that's how teens are. But I definitely, I got hit, and more so than just like a little tap kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so you would think that that would kind of stifle my opinionating personality, like having so much opinion on everything. But what I did instead was I still wanted to be heard. And there was a lot going on. So we could sit for hours and kind of talk about it, but like, I won't go into it, but it's just like so much going on that was toxic that I just felt the need to kind of say something about it.
Yeah.
So in my teenage way, I would say something about it. And I would always make sure that I was by a room that had a locked door. So I could say what I had to say. And if I was going to get hit, I could be safe and kind of lock the door and be safe. And that was like one of my earliest memories of feeling safe, was being behind a locked door. So because I had said something that meant something to me. Now, looking back, I mean, hindsight's always 2020. Looking back, I really, and now, I'm a special ed teacher, I'm a mom. I now see that like younger version of myself and like not making excuses at all. I mean, I know there were better ways I could have expressed myself, but I really needed someone to teach me that.
Yes.
Yeah. And I needed, someone to say like, why are you so overanalyzing everything? Or, and maybe even like my so I have OCD and anxiety and depression. And, maybe a lot of that was coming out in the fact that I was so opinionated because I needed to feel the need for control. Or like, and instead of someone kind of sitting with me, I don't remember ever having heart to hearts or talking about anything, or it was just kind of like, you said something I don't like, then there I go running behind the door, so that I could say what I have to say and feel heard, but then also be safe at the same time.
Right.
So, and not to go on and on about it, but it's interesting. I was talking to a friend about what I was doing today. And it's interesting because she had brought to my attention that I am very careful when I speak. And we were wondering if maybe that's because it's kind of like a learned behavior. I mean, so in my adult life, it's kind of, I mean, it's just like, there was a better way to learn that.
Mm-hmm.
So I never felt safe or heard. So I think kind of adding on to, I do think a part of my diagnoses have to do with genetics. There are a lot of people in my family that have, OCD and anxiety and depression. But I do think that it kind of added insult to injury, the toxicity that I kind of grew up around, not having an outlet or having someone to speak to. And then that in turn affected my relationships outside of my home. So then I kind of felt like I didn't belong.
Yeah.
So just like very, and it's funny because I always would put up a facade and always refer to myself as smiling at school, and like would draw happy faces all over everything, when meanwhile inside I didn't feel that way.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So I never really like shared that even with anyone that I went to school with or anything like that. So no one knew at all. I just was like working hard to kind of make it seem like I was normal, I guess.
Yeah. No, I mean, that is so, I feel like that's so relatable for so many of us, is the masking. It's like the inside is like absolute suffering, right?
Yeah.
And when you were talking at the beginning about like the overthinking and the overanalyzing, like I related so hard to that, like, you know, like driving myself nuts for, you know, like, but that was all on the inside, right? So on the outside, there's this bubbliness, the smiliness, and it's so easy to mask that things are okay. And so I really feel what you've been saying there. Yeah, because on the outside, no one could really tell, right? Like everything that was going on.
Yeah.
I really, there's so many parts. So like now I'm overthinking like which part do I say and reflect on and stuff, and don't forget the other pieces and this and that. But I think what I just want to reflect on is the first thing is that I appreciate how, you know, you're like, you know, I had all this overthinking and overanalyzing, and also I was very opinionated, right? Because sometimes I think when we hear anxiety, we also hear indecisiveness or fear of speaking up, right? And you didn't have that. And even after knowing that if you speak up, you might get hit or you will get hit, it didn't change your speaking up. It just changed your behavior on where you spoke up.
Yes.
And I think that that's like such just an I don't know, an important part of your story, right? Like, I don't know really what my brain wants to say, but just like that really stood out to me, right? Is, you know, not everything, like when negative input comes in, does it make us like hide and shy away? It's like, okay, I still need to be myself. I still need to be heard. I'm just going to figure out a different way to do it. Right. So I guess that sounds.
That was my entire mentality.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. You to put it in one sentence, it was exactly that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love that part, even though there is like, you know, obviously some suffering and stress and everything in that. I guess my question is, can you talk a little bit about the OCD part, right? So we've had people come on and talk about anxiety, or talking about anxiety and depression, or anxiety and ADHD. We haven't had that many conversations around OCD. So, you know, I think it gets thrown around a lot. Like for me, I do have stuff where like if I leave the house, I have to like check the lock like 5 times, right? It doesn't always have to be the number 5, but I definitely have to do that. And if I've used the stove, I have to go back and check that the stove is off multiple times and like say it out loud.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't think for me that's like OCD, the diagnosis. I just think that is some of my anxiety manifesting in ways where I like perseverate on things.
Exactly.
So if you could talk about the OCD piece a bit, just so everyone has an understanding of how that's different than the way we all just like throw it around.
Yeah, I'm for sure. I mean, I definitely, you know, so I saw like a kick-ass therapist. Like this dude was like, I'm so sad that he retired, because he, like, I sang and he loved music, and like he was just like, you know, you always hope to click with a therapist. Like this guy was it. He was like the fucking man. But like he was like an older gentleman, like super cool, like seasoned, like just totally got it, but also didn't give a shit. It was like a perfect balance. I loved it.
Yes.
But like he you know, he gave me a test because I said, you know, like, I'm wondering if I have OCD. He's like, okay, you know, we'll take a test. And then, he's like, yeah, you have OCD. So it was interesting because then it was good to know. And then we kind of tailored our sessions together to kind of help with my anxiety and my OCD. so for me, my OCD and my anxiety is relative to each other. So, I'll have to do like the obsessive checking, but I just can't check it. Like I have to look at it and check it. And if it feels right, then I can leave, even though I know that it's unplugged or that the stove is off. Like if it doesn't feel right, which is so hard to describe, but that's
Yes.
like if it doesn't feel right, then I can't walk away or I can't not check again.
Yes.
So I explained this to my therapist because I was like, oh my God, like I'm late to everything. Like it's just like affecting my life. Like how, so we had a really good strategy and said, just take a picture of it. He's like, just take a picture of the outlet, so that when you're driving, or if you're, like you had already left, so you don't, because sometimes I would leave and turn around and come back and check.
Yes. Yes.
And I used to live in like an upstairs condo, and I would like to go up the stairs. I'm like, I'm like a person to myself. Like, come on. So, because
you're like, I know it's locked. I know it's off, but no, I can't.
Yes,
Maybe I have OCD. I don't know.
But I do feel it's so relative. So, yeah, I still do it to this day. And so if I ever feel like, oh gosh, like I know I checked, but it didn't feel right. So just for me, maybe that might not work for everyone, but for me, that works. Just the act of taking the picture helps me.
Yeah.
I don't have to even look at the picture sometimes.
Right.
I do wash my hands a lot. Funny story, there was a fire drill because I'm a teacher, and my team and I, we laugh about this all the time. So I can like laugh about it, which is like so I got stuck in the bathroom. Like when I say stuck, I mean like I felt like I had to wash my hands twice, but it was a fire drill. So I had to leave and I couldn't get out of the bathroom. And they were like, Christy, where the hell were you? I was like, I was in the bathroom. I had to wash my hands twice. And I was like, it was so bad. So now we like joke around about it. Like, Christy, don't go to the bathroom. We have a fire drill. It's like, I was like, I had to wash it twice and I couldn't get out. So, but but in all seriousness though, it really is all relative. So if I'm having a bad anxiety day, my OCD will be worse because I feel like my anxiety makes me feel like I'm not in control of anything or a certain thing. And so on those days, I might do something like super clean my house because I can control that. And that makes me feel good. So that's kind of where the OCD kind of is relative to my anxiety, kind of like will fluctuate together.
Yeah. I mean, Abby and I did a whole episode about obsessing over things, but I remember distinctly when we were talking about that episode, it was like, well, should we call it an OCD episode? Because neither of us had been like officially diagnosed with OCD, and we wanted to be sensitive to the fact that like, hey, this is something that is maybe even more debilitating for plenty of folks. And would it be not right for us to kind of think about the way that our anxiety and maybe obsessive compulsive tendencies show up with our anxiety, and focus on that aspect of it as opposed to like calling it OCD, right? And so like, I mean, I could very much also relate to just the over checking and the overthought of like, now I'm in the car and, oh, fuck, did I do that one thing that I needed to do? And I remember in our conversation that Abby and I had, it was like, it all stemmed from safety and control. So then we subsequently had an episode about being control enthusiasts, right? And so it just sounds like, you're definitely in the right place talking to us about this, Shiitake, because while we maybe don't have these formal diagnoses for this type of behavior, I think that a lot of people out there could relate to even the tiniest aspect of what you go through. And so I'm curious, just to sort of quickly elaborate on the OCD, like what kind of shows up in you physically when you say, forget to take that picture, or, what if you were unable to wash your hands a second time? Like, what kinds of things does your body and mind go through? And if it's too intense for you to share, then feel free to be like, fuck off, Margot. But like, if not, I'm just super curious because I know for me, as someone that isn't officially diagnosed with that, but like has my own way of feeling and thoughts that flow through my mind, how does it show up for you?
It's like the word that comes to mind is like perseveration.
Yes, that's what the word that came to my mind.
It's so bad, and it's almost kind of similar to when you don't feel control with your anxiety, like you feel that unease, tension, and like that pain, like that, like, you know, tightness in your chest, or like just like that uncomfortable, uneasy feeling. And then, you know, before, you know, where I am now, where like I'm kind of like in the midst of a journey with like medication and working with a therapist and a psychiatrist. But before that, um, there would be a lot of what if scenarios that would go on in my head. So like if I didn't check that one more time, the whole building is going to go up in flames, and then it's going to be my fault and people's lives are going to be destroyed. And then this whole thing that never happened would like just knock me down, and then you're emotionally exhausted.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just very much like the what if scenarios were so big for me before I you know, routinely saw a therapist and a psychiatrist, because you know, the medication isn't a fix-all. So speaking to my therapist, I see a different one now. I'm able to like learn strategies on how to like move on, and like if I can't, you know, have control like I want to, what do I do, you know? So it's definitely has been helpful for me.
Yeah. No, I mean, I so relate to the emotional exhaustion, right? Because, and from my perspective, right, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but for me, it's like when I know I close the garage door, but I have to turn around and drive 5 minutes back to check for whatever reason, or push through and sit in that discomfort, like that is emotional exhaustion. Right. And so, you know, because for me, I'm like, I know I closed it. Why am I going back? But there's this feeling inside that's like, if you don't check, right? Like you just have to check.
You feel good. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And then, but I'm angry once I go. And of course it's closed. And I'm like saying out loud to myself, the garage door is closed. Right.
Right. Yeah. You're like, it's closed. It is closed. Like until it feels good. Yeah. It's wild. But like, it's just like a feeling, and it's so hard to describe, but it definitely certainly is emotionally exhausting. Yeah.
I kind of like the act of just saying over and over again, it's closed. Right. Like even just now, like, and this is that particular one is not something that I have to think about in my own journey, but the more times you both just said it, I'm like, I feel a little bit better about that, even though my garage door is definitely closed and that's never been an anxiety of mine. So it's like, just the act of telling yourself, right, how powerful our words are and our thoughts and our reframing of things. I love that. So if you can also elaborate more on how anxiety shows up in you. You mentioned tightness in the chest. You had said this thing to in our call, our pre-interview call, you called it personal purgatory. And not just because I love alliteration, but I just love this phrasing. I love these two words together because it's so visual and descriptive. So like talk to us a little bit more about like what is personal purgatory for you, or and more about how your anxiety manifests itself in you physically.
Yeah. So when I got divorced in the midst of separating, my depression really like took a head. And and now this was before I was on medication. And you know, medication isn't something for everyone. Like I did so many other things before that to try and kind of curb this feeling of a personal purgatory. So I just felt stuck that in my emotions, and I felt heavy physically and emotionally every single day. I felt like that tightness in your chest. I felt the stress in your arms and you kind of lose your posture. I felt constant headaches because I was clenching my teeth because of stress. And then that affects the way that you react, because on top of your anxiety and all your other diagnoses, you now have a headache and your back hurts. And, so it doesn't help at all. It's very painful. And then, to use the word personal purgatory, I just kind of felt like that feeling of heaviness was my everyday.
Yeah.
And I felt like whatever I was doing was not, I couldn't get up. Like I just felt like I was drowning. So I had to, decide to, we went through with a divorce. It was really hard because I at the time felt like I was living in my dream house. Like I always wanted a colonial on a cul-de-sac, and was exactly what we just ended up coincidentally getting. And so I had to, I couldn't afford that or upkeep a big house like that by myself. So I had to come to terms with the fact that I had to put my house up for sale and just like see, as much as I felt like I had to say, oh, here's to the next chapter, I just felt heavy all the time. And it's just like a personal purgatory of feeling heavy, and nothing that I did was helping. So I leaned into friends because they really fucking like knocked it out of the park in terms of like being a support system. Like my team at school and my friends, if it wasn't for them, this would have been 10 times harder. So they helped pull me out of that personal purgatory and opened my eyes to the fact that I needed to start taking care of myself in order to take care of the things around me, like and take care of my son. So in order for me to be the best mom that I can be, and the best teacher that I could be, and everything that I had wanted to be, I needed to start carving out time for myself and understanding that that's not selfish. Because I just felt like I was doing things for myself, but I really wasn't. And then when I wasn't, I was making excuses for it. And so that's why I just felt stuck or in a purgatory, because I really felt at the time that I would have been selfish if I didn't, spend every single day, doing every second of the day something for my home or for my family. But I had to realize that you can't pour from an empty cup. And you have to do things that help recharge you. And you have to have a persona that's outside of mom, and that's outside of teacher. And so, it wasn't until, I tried, after I moved out of my home, you still kind of are going through that transition of like, shit, there's like boxes everywhere. This really happened. Like,
right.
What do I do now?
The shock. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I did start feeling better though, because I felt like I was out of that house, even though I wanted to stay in that house. There were so many bad memories there that it was nice to start over. So that was comforting. And then as I started like creating a home for my son and I, because when I was younger, kind of going back to what I was talking about before, I didn't understand fully what was happening. I knew it was wrong and I knew I didn't feel safe. And I would always say to myself, I don't know what this is, but whatever it is, I'm doing the opposite when I'm older. And I finally got a chance to do that because I got my shit together. I was like seeing my therapist regularly. I was, I tried a whole bunch of things. It just wasn't working for me at the time because I was so depressed that, I had to go on medication. I still am on medication, and it's definitely a journey, and it's not a one size fits all, and it's not a fix. It's a facet of a whole slew of things that you have to do in order to live with anxiety and whatever your diagnosis is, to depression or OCD. But yeah, if it was a long time of feeling stuck and heavy, and I just described it as a purgatory because no matter what I did, it was just the same every single day. It was like not a joy to wake up.
Right.
But yeah, so I really am like so beyond blessed that though, if I look back now, the people that I met for a reason, and how I met them was crazy. Like, it was just so random. Um, I made my work friends. Like, I just, the people that God had placed in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And now looking back, I can see why. And I feel so blessed
Yeah.
to like still have them, because I can like celebrate now this really good chapter with them. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's definitely, self-care is not selfish, and it's not weak to lean on other people. And I wish I would have learned that a lot sooner than I did, but I guess better late than never.
Yeah, yeah. And well, I feel like the self-care isn't selfish is like a phrase that I've heard for so many years. But it isn't until like I paused and really thought about it that I was like, oh, like, like you have to like really like, oh, wait. So showing up for myself, putting myself first isn't selfish. Nourishing myself so I can be there for others isn't selfish. I'm actually giving to others because I'm making sure I'm in a better space, right? Rather than like that empty cup where I can't offer anything. And I just really love you highlighting. I mean, I love highlighting therapy and medication because I am definitely like everyone finds their way in what works for them, and
Right.
medication can help, right? It's not for everyone, like you said, but for some of us, like it actually helps on the journey so that we can actually practice using the coping skills that we're getting.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
So that was like, I'm so glad you said that, because I meant to say that and I forgot. But like, because I felt like, and even for my son, like the same kind of thing. Like, it's not, we know all these strategies and we can rattle them off, but in the moment, like, okay, yeah, go F yourself. I'm gonna like breathe in and out. Like, I want
Yeah.
to scream right now, but being on, for me, again, like, medication is not for everyone. And if you're not on medication, it doesn't make you a bad person. It just means it's not part of your journey or story right now. But for me, it just made sense.
Yeah.
And it helped kind of clear the fogginess that I was feeling from the rush of the anxiety in my head, and like all the thoughts and the what ifs that were consuming me, and helped me kind of quiet that a little bit so I could be more present to then appropriately pull out the strategy from my tool belt that I've learned and actually use it, you know?
Yes.
So,
I was
yeah.
just about to add, it's a tool. It's one of the tools, right? It's just, it's, as we've said many times, it's not for everyone, or maybe it just means you need to mess with it. You need to be honest with your doctor about how it's going, right? We've had a lot of guests talk about their journey with medication, and either they went on it and then they realized after 6 months that it wasn't for them, or they were able to advocate for themselves and say, you know what, I don't know that this particular mix or this brand is working for me. Can we go back to the drawing board and figure it out together? And with this thought, and you've mentioned it in slight ways throughout this part of the conversation, and I want to talk more about what's on your, in our call, you referred to it as like your team of strategies. Like you said, it was a team effort. And so like you're saying things like medication and therapy, and those are, I'm picturing like these are members of your team, right? And that are offering you those tools, right? So like, what are some of the other things? Who are the other folks, metaphorically, that are on your team that help you to cope with your anxiety and all the other things?
Yeah. So I definitely love doing yoga. I started doing it when my marriage was rocky, to kind of stay centered, and continue to do it. And I, was really heavily into meditating right before I had my son. It really helped me in labor, which was amazing. Yes, the breathing was so helpful. So yoga, meditation, and I haven't been so great about it this week, but I I like to wake up like super early before anyone else, because it helps my anxiety if I'm not like getting up, rushing to do my morning routine and then running to work, like, and not having a second to catch my breath. So sometimes it depends on the mood that I'm in when I wake up, but sometimes I'll get up and like have a cup of coffee right away, or sometimes I'll get up and empty the dishwasher, make lunches, but get up early enough that I can do that and then sit down. And like, it doesn't have to be like a long hour thing, but like it's even if it's like 5-10 minutes just to catch my breath and center myself, that's like really, really important to me. I do I use this meditation app that I listen to. I listen to my Christian meditation app, which is, it focuses on a Bible verse and then it gives you some kind of meditation to do. And then I listen to an excerpt from the Bible every morning. Now I listen to it on the way to work. So I'm not physically actually meditating because I have to pay attention when I'm driving, but I'm listening to it just to kind of get the I guess the message of the day and kind of like set the tone for my day and my mindset. So that helps. I see my therapist, and it kind of fluctuates. Like if there's something big that's happening in my life and I feel like I need to check in consistently, then I'll do it every week. If not, I'm able to she's a wonderful and like is very flexible. I do it every other week. But again, like that, I wouldn't have been able to do rewind to like in the height of my depression. Like, even if I felt like I didn't need to go, I went anyway. And then by the end of the session, I'm hysterical crying, so it's like, I didn't trust myself enough that like, I was burying so much at the time that I needed to go. But now I feel like, and as long as she felt it was okay, I go every other week. And then with my psychiatrist, I just recently changed medications. When I was on the first medication, it was like a journey and it didn't happen overnight. And she worked very closely with me, like even in between my appointments to kind of, increase the dose little by little as we kind of, watched symptoms and how I was feeling. Then I had to switch to a different medication. It's healing is not linear. Yeah. It is very much peaks and valleys. And you might find a great medication and then our bodies change or your scenario changes and you need something stronger or you need something not as small, and it's interesting because I had a reaction to my first medication. And that's kind of what prompted the conversation of like, can I try something else? Because I'm breaking out in rashes. And it was like so random. But I was saying to my therapist, I'm like, I don't know, maybe I should have been on the medication I'm on right now. Maybe I should have started with that. And she's like, no, she's like, I really firmly feel that you needed that first medication because of where you were in your life. And it really helped you through a lot of those really, really tough times. Because it was a little bit more of like a stronger medication. So now that I'm able to have a little bit more of a clear head and I have a little bit more experience working with my strategies that my therapist has taught me, I can maybe, be on a little bit of a less dose for now. Yeah. But I'm definitely not married to this dose. I'm not married to even being on medication. I'm not married to seeing my therapist only every other week. I just kind of I trust my body. I listen to it and I try to be as mindful as possible. But if I wasn't carving out time to be silent with myself every day, I wouldn't, I don't know. I'd want to say for me, I wouldn't be able to notice those things like where there was a need, because the hustle and bustle of the day, it's so easy to just not think about yourself.
Right. So, right. It's easy to get lost in the mix. Yeah. And so those moments where you can just check in, how am I doing? What's coming up? Am I more anxious this week? Am I less anxious this week? Right. Yeah. It gives information for then how to pursue for the rest of the week or the 2 weeks or the month. I love that. And it's so valuable. It's like 5 minutes of just sitting and checking in. You don't even have to do anything rigid or structured. It's just like, how am I doing today? And that can be so much information for the rest of your, week and month, right? Just that check-in.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Love it.
Love. I love hearing about your team. Your team.
Yes. Yeah.
Now I'm going to think about it, be like, put me in, coach. When
yes. Yeah. So you remember we've had some guests talk about how they're the leader, right? It's like, wait, put me in, Christy, here. I know what I need. I know what I want. And so sometimes it's almost a good reminder too. It's like, sometimes a team can feel a little overwhelming, right? I don't know. It's great to have a lot of self-care strategies, a lot of things that you can pull to. So that way you're like never left screwed or stranded and alone with whatever it is you're going through. But at the same time, it's like, hold on, don't forget about yourself. And you mentioned the self-trust aspect a few times. And so it's like, hold on. At the root of it is you, right? And I love that you kind of said it a couple of times. I listen to my body and I take it, I go with where she needs me. Right. And so I think that's just such a valuable, as Abby said, it's a great asset to be able to stop and pause and check in with yourself, even if it's not structured at any moment in the day. It's such a valuable practice. All right. So how would you describe your relationship to anxiety these days?
It is a day to day. I try not to think too far ahead, and I try not to go down the rabbit hole of what ifs from the past. So every day I wake up and, my son has autism and ADHD. So, depending upon, how that's going, I'm a teacher, I'm a special ed teacher. So that also, it's, my relationship is I am open-minded, and I try to show myself grace and allow myself to make mistakes because I'm living with anxiety. Nothing is going to quote unquote cure it. It will always be there, even if I don't feel it. So I'm just mindful of just trying. My relationship is, I guess I would say, day to day. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And I mean, I've heard that throughout the way you talk about, like, I don't know if I'll always see my therapist. I don't know if I'll always be on meds. Maybe I'll be on different meds. Maybe I'll be on more. Maybe I'll be on less. Like it just, it shines through you that like just going on the journey and not being really attached, but being curious and present. Like that's what I'm really hearing throughout your entire like story, especially like where you are now. It's like, I'm not going to get attached to stuff. I'm really practicing that, just going with the flow and being connected to myself to know what I need in the flow.
Yeah. And sometimes that's, it's not always easy.
No.
OCD. So it's sometimes, and I'm not, it's not, I don't wake up and I'm like, yeah, like we're going to do this. Anxiety. Like, I'm like, I just like, it's hard. And, but again, you just try your best. And at the end of the day, that's really all you can do.
Yeah.
And if you make a mistake and you slip up, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's really okay because we're not robots. We do have feelings, and, anxiety or no anxiety, like everyone has feelings, and it's okay to feel them. But then feel them and then think about what you're going to do next in a productive way. But that's not always easy.
No, definitely not.
I try to be mindful of it. So I try my best.
Love it. Yeah. Seeing the next right thing is definitely not a linear journey either.
Yeah.
All right. So if you could go back in time and offer a younger version of yourself one bit of advice, what would you say to her?
That you are worthy of it. In so many different chapters, the it means different things. Like, I'm worthy of my voice being heard. I'm worthy of someone loving me. I'm worthy of being good at my job and knowing that I am, because I love it so much. And like, I'm worthy of celebrating the gains that I've made, and the lessons that I've learned from my mistakes. Because for a very long time, I didn't feel that way. And I also think that kind of ruined a lot of relationships along the way, because I just didn't handle them appropriately. So yeah, I mean, knowing that I'm worthy has enabled me to set healthy boundaries as well in my adult life. So.
Ooh,
I'm just like covered in chills.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Like, chills.
Love it. Yeah.
So beautiful. I mean, and you said it so quickly, right? Like the answer was just like at the ready. And I just, oh my gosh, I love it so much. Just being worthy of it and
Yeah.
it being changeable. Like Abby said, it's like you embody just the fluidity and the openness and the get ready for the bumps and the bruises and all the shit that life is going to throw at you, and just to be able to go on the ride with such an open heart, but also stand firm in the knowledge of like, yeah, but I'm worth it and I'm worth all of it, is beyond powerful, Christy.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. We like to ask all of our warrior guests to share how they would define anxiety warrior. That is what we are. That's how we look at ourselves as people, as you said, Christy, not just a couple of minutes ago. Like, there are no cures for anxiety in our view either. We're going to be living with this, even if we don't have current feelings of anxiety, which I think we always pretty much do. But even if we don't, if it's that rare moment in the day when we don't, right? It's always a part of us. And so we like to ask all of our guests how they would define anxiety warrior. What does being an anxiety warrior mean to you?
Not letting it define you and limit you. So you can still do things that scare you. Don't not go down a particular avenue because it's scary. It seems so little and silly, but I've always wanted to have like an Etsy shop, and I've always wanted to sing with a band, and I've always wanted, and like those things are fucking scary. Like what if I make something and someone just hates it when they get it, or and they go online and like destroy me, and like
yes, leave a mean review. Yes.
like what if these are all like, it's okay to have anxiety and be vulnerable, because you don't want to miss out on so many opportunities. So just find a way to, be a warrior and kind of battle through by, may it be leaning on people that you trust, or may it be setting healthy boundaries, or may it be whatever it takes for you to be a warrior and kind of find that courage within you and kind of battle through that feeling of over nervousness, because everyone feels nervous doing something that means a lot to them, and then add anxiety on top of that. So you can't let, just because something seems a little scary or it's uncomfortable, stop you from trying to do it if it's something that really lights your soul on fire.
I love that. I love, like I've heard some people like say the part about like anxiety doesn't define me, but I love that second piece of, and it's not going to limit me.
Yeah.
Right. Because I feel like, yeah, okay, anxiety, like it doesn't always define me. Right. But it definitely can limit me. Right. And I just love that piece. Is part of being an anxiety warrior is pushing beyond the limits. If it's something important to you, find the way to do it. You don't let your anxiety limit you from trying something new. And yeah,
I always say no what ifs. No what ifs.
Now I know Abby knows this person, and I'm sure you do too, Christy, but I'm going to say it anyway. Do you know Elise Myers from Instagram?
Why does it sound? Oh, yes.
Yeah, she's got like dark curly hair. She's like super, she's got an incredible singing voice, actually, right? She's just super nerdy introvert, like warrior, and we are just obsessed with her. And so she had said this thing recently, and maybe both of you have heard it, and it just reminded me so much of how you define anxiety warrior, because you said that like even when something makes you scared or nervous, it doesn't keep you from trying or going there. And there was an audio recently that's going around, and she just said something to the effect, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but it was like, people are always asking me how I do things or how I push past, being afraid to go ahead and do what I want or do things. And she says, I just do things scared.
Yeah.
And it just reminded me so much of what you just said. And of course I held on to it because I feel like I'm doing everything scared all the time. So it's just like hopes for myself. Like, it's okay, Margot, right? Like, we can do things even if they scare the shit out of us.
Yeah.
And we don't have to stop ourselves from doing it simply because anxiety is telling us that we should run away and be scared. We can still do it, but do it scared. And so anyway,
no,
that was a hot aside.
I love it. Love it all.
So good. Okay. So it is time for some lightning round. Lightning. So at the end.
At the end. I love that. That's gonna be new now. Like we go pew, 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 and then you're like lightning.
So dramatic.
Yeah. I love it.
Okay. I didn't even know that I did that. Cool. At the end,
I thought you guys and that. It was wonderful.
See, we're just
Well
full
done.
of surprising ourselves over here, Christy. We have no idea what the fuck we're doing. It's different every week. Some of it's the same, some of it's new.
I thought it was incredible.
Thank you. All right, we'll take it. You know, new things get added to our roster or lineup of ridiculous things that we do all the time. So you got it, Abby. From now on, after the it's just gonna go lightning. Lightning. Okay. Amazing. So we're just going to go back and forth, Christy, and ask you a fun get to know you kind of question. Just because even though our conversation with you has just been already so lovely and warm and grounding and inspiring and empowering, we still have to end with like play and silliness because anxiety is a really heavy topic for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
So, Abby.
Yeah.
Can I go first?
Go first. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so I know that you are a singer, a part-time singer in emo. Is it emo pop and punk band?
Yeah, it's emo pop punk. Yeah, it's
Emo pop punk. Okay.
And they're amazing.
Yay. And I know that you refer to yourself as an elder emo, which I think a lot of us that grew up in the 80s and 90s that listen to any kind of emo, right? Abby and I are 40 years old now, so we're like super elder. I know. Why did I just bring that up? I suck.
I have not been anxious this entire episode. Sorry. Gosh.
Okay. So if you could be the lead singer for any emo pop or punk band, like past or present, other than the one that you're already the lead of, but like maybe like a ridiculously famous one from like, childhood or like back in the day, which one would it be? And then maybe you could just like sing a little snippet of like
oh gosh,
just a line.
Just a line or two or five.
So I wish I used to be a lead singer in the band, but the Warped Tour band are like best friends of mine, and they're so kind to let me like sing every once in a while. So I just sing like 2-3 of the girl songs with them every once in a while, which I'm so thankful to them that they let me do that, and it's a blast to like make those memories with your friends. So fun.
Yeah.
But and everyone who knows me is probably gonna know this answer. My Chemical Romance.
Yes.
Obsessed.
Yes.
But like, so now I wouldn't replace Gerard because he's my celebrity crush, Gerard Way, the lead singer of My Chemical Romance. Like,
nice.
He would have to be there with me. Like,
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So you would tag team it, like duet
I just love him. Like, oh my God. Like, I remember, it's so funny, like thinking about anxiety. I remember seeing them on MTV in the morning, like getting ready for school. And I was like, not paying attention. The TV was on. I turned around and I'm Not Okay was playing. And I was like, what? I found my people. This is where has this been my whole life? Like, and then that was like how I got introduced to like emo pop punk. And it's just like, I'm like, oh my God, these people are emotional also. And we can just scream it out in music. But yeah, oh my God, if I could like just meet them one day, it would be a dream. All
right, so let's hear like a line of your favorite song.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know what to sing. I don't even know what to sing.
I got Helena in my head. I was like,
oh my
gosh.
gosh.
The worst thing I could.
Right? And the worst that I could say. Things are better if I stay. So long and good night. So long and good night.
Oh, I just got full body.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. Yeah. Thank you for picking the song. I would have been like, we could have done that one or that one.
You would have OCD'd it just the whole time.
I always loved that song. That's like still on my playlist. Like
oh
that.
My God.
Yeah.
And the way he looks in that video.
Yes.
Like give a moment of song. Oh my God. I just can't. I can't handle it.
I love so good. All right.
Okay. So I'm going to stick in the like 80s, 90s, early 2000s. So I recently was in New York visiting my mom. I was in my childhood house and I had to like clean out some of the stuff. And there was things I could not throw out. Like I had an American Girl doll. I had a pound puppy. I had a popple. Right?
Oh my gosh, I love
like
popples.
Calvin and Hobbes book. So I'm just sharing those because if you had to get one thing from your childhood that you could like never throw out, or you could like pick more than one if you have more than one, what would it be?
My big, like, fat CD book.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
I still have those.
Yes. And I look at it every time I clean out because I'm starting to do like that whole minimalist thing. And then, my boyfriend moved in with us. So like I had to clean out some things. And every single time I go to clean it out, I find it. And I'm like, but I can never, my car doesn't have a CD player. I don't have a CD player in my house, but I just can't throw it away. It's just something about it. I'm like, oh, but like I have memories of like dancing with my girlfriends, like to this CD, or like this was from this road trip, or so like I will forever keep those CDs. I think that'll be like with me forever. I can never listen to them, but I'll look at them, it'll just be nostalgia.
Yes, you flip through it takes you back.
Right, exactly.
A lot of that old school tech is making its way back, so
True.
maybe they're gonna start selling CD players again, like
That's
regularly,
true.
and you could grab one, just
That's
saying.
true. Oh my gosh, fingers crossed.
Yes. Yeah, well, I mean, cassette tapes are back on the rise. So, yeah.
Know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that
I mean,
either.
my husband works for this giant music festival called Furnace Fest. And a lot of the bands that he's connected with are starting to make like actual cassettes. I'm like, are people buying this? It's like, yeah, people are. And so I don't know if they're playing it on things or if they're just buying them because they're cheap and it's like nostalgic. And he's probably going to yell at me when he hears this episode that I've screwed this entire retell of this up. But still, like the fact that even just like this week we had this conversation about them being like kind of on the rise again. I'm like,
wow,
okay, it's weird. Okay. So your Instagram page, Our Comfy Abode, is just like, it's just,
oh gosh, thank you.
I mean, it's like the way that you decorate your house. I'm like, that's in my head. If I were a real adult on the inside, I'd be able to decorate our house like in any way that you decorate your house. It's just like you said, minimalist. It's just very earthy and like neutrals, but like in a fun, sort of warm, inviting way, not like in a dull, like old lady kind of way.
Yeah. Thank you.
So like if you could design like someone's dream home, like maybe a celebrity, or like if you could have like a dream client where they saw your Instagram and were like, Christy, we want you to design our entire home and furnish it and paint and do all the things, like, do you have like a dream client?
Oh gosh, that's such a good question. I didn't even know who I would pick. I mean, maybe, just the kind of, I don't know if this is like a lame answer because we like already talked about like emo pop punk for so much, but I feel like I love Hayley Williams' vibe. And I feel like she would be up to doing like cool, funky, like modern type things. And probably also Zooey Deschanel, because I do like retro things, like that retro kind of vibe. So I feel like that kind of is up her alley too. So I cheated and I said 2 people.
Okay. When you said Hayley Williams, I don't know if you heard me audibly gasp, but I've said for years now that if there was going to be a soundtrack like song about my life, that Hayley Williams would be the person to sing it. I'm obsessed with her.
Oh my gosh, you have to come to a show because
I'm definitely going to come to a show.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing.
Oh my gosh, yes. I know we talked about connecting like a couple months back, and then it just never happened. So we have to get that happening.
We'll make it happen for sure.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's an amazing. I would love to see those decorated homes for either one of those people.
I feel like they would have something like so crazy, like, and you'd be like, oh my God, like I'd never think as that as a decor piece, but it looks amazing. Like I love that kind of stuff. I love it.
I wish my brain thought like that.
Okay. All right. I feel like, how do I follow up from here? I'm having lightning round anxiety. It's like, No, it's okay. Okay. So I had a random question popped in my head. So hopefully it makes sense. So you go to shows, you perform, you sing. So what is the show that you would never go to unless someone like paid you to go? Like, who would you never want to go see or listen to unless?
Oh God. So I tried with all of my might to, oh my God. And I feel like everyone has to each his own.
Yes.
I tried with all of my might to like country music.
Oh, same.
I really did.
No.
And I've gone to a country concert, and I think probably more than one. And I don't know. I can't do it. It's just
You're in good company.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. And to anyone who loves country, like, man, go for it. It's awesome. And I like, you guys really like love it. Like, if anyone likes country, they fucking love it.
Yes.
But I just like, I can't even like it. Like,
now,
I try so hard. It's just not my thing.
Ugh,
yeah.
we're with you.
Yeah, we're 100% with you. Yeah.
In fact, it makes me angry. It makes me really angry.
Yeah. Oh my God, Sam. I'm like, why do I feel like I want to like break something right now? But I'm totally kidding. But it's just, like, I don't know what it is. All right. So that makes me feel better that you guys
Yeah.
No, but I know how you feel about like, you don't want to upset people, right? It's like, it's like a lot of people love country music, and it's like you said, good for you. If it makes you happy, you found your music.
Is so healing. Yeah.
Do your thing.
Yeah, totally.
All right. My final question. Do you have either a favorite or most memorable quote that has just always, I've asked this question to a couple of our guests before, but I really like it. I like to come back to it randomly. Something that's just sticks with you, or that you like to have in your back pocket when you're having a hard time, or just in general?
So I would have to say there's, oh my gosh, the name of the song escapes me, but, I forget who even sings it, but it's a line in a Christian song that says, if you left the grave behind you, so will I. And it just kind of talks about, like Jesus's love for us and everything that he's done for us, and for our sins. And I just kind of feel like I think about that line when I start going down that rabbit hole of like not feeling so thrilled about the way that I handled certain situations in the past. Mm-hmm. And so I try to kind of like let it live in the past. So like, if you let the grave behind you, so can I. I don't really even know if the writers of that song kind of meant it in that way, but the way that it kind of resonated for me because of that idea of a personal purgatory, it's okay. Like, I lived that part of my life, and it was like something that I will always remember, of course, because it was so like heavy for me. But it's okay that it happened. I can show myself grace, and even in the like not so proud moments, I can still celebrate the fact that I maybe learned from something from that, or like how I want to react different next time. Yeah. So that kind of like is a healing line for me.
I love that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like that should have been the final one. All right. Now I'm going to be like, tell me your favorite TV show. I'll make it a little more creative. Okay. If you had to live half your life, like maybe every time you sleep at night, you can only be in a TV show or a movie for like every time you sleep, you go into this TV show or movie, you hang out with those characters, you know, what TV show or movie would you want to live in part-time?
That's so funny. My favorite movie is Back to the Future 2. The second,
the second one.
So, I am the worst person to watch that movie with, because I could probably perform it for you right now. But I just know like every line, and I just can't help myself but say it. And they're like, Christy, shoot, you shut the fuck up. Like, I just can't not say it. As a matter of fact, I set a line for men at work today. Like, I don't even know how people are around me, but like, I'm just like, I would go back to I would love to be in Back to the Future. Like first of all, like Marty McFly was a stud. And like, I don't know. I just love the whole movie. It was like amazing. So yeah, if I could live part-time, like in that like movie, I totally wouldn't mind.
Love it. Love
Nice.
it. Good answer.
That's a good one. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for getting in the mud and playing with us a little bit, having some lightning round fun.
Thank you for having me.
Before we have you share with our listeners how they can connect with you or where they can find you, if they want to connect, share with us if you have, or hopefully you have many of them, but if you could pick one big or small win that you've had this week. We like to ask our guests to share a win of the week. Anything coming in this week?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. And so my ex-husband is married, and they just had a baby today.
Wow.
It's like, and throughout the whole process, I started realizing a little bit like a few days ago that I was feeling like a little crummy. And I recognized the fact that, you know, I had a miscarriage before my son Mason and after my son Mason. So I was unable to give him a sibling. And it kind of like, you know, I really tried to be mindful of showing myself and my body grace. And, you know, be able to celebrate with them, because Mason he's going to be like the best big brother on the planet. Like, this kid is like so empathetic and loving, and like he teaches me a lot every day. And so I know that they are going to be very blessed to have each other. And I think I try to be very mindful too, because Mason is very much aware too. Like, they're always watching and listening, even when you don't think that they are. So I let Mason like know that, you know, I was celebrating with them, you know, and that this is an extension of our family and what our family looks like. But then when I'm alone, it's really like I could have really gone down that rabbit hole. So I want to celebrate the fact that I was able to recognize where I was about to go.
Yeah.
And put things in perspective and look around and be grateful for what I have right now. That kind of helped me get through this week. So
yeah, I feel like that is such a huge win, right? It's like, oh, my tools are working, right? And even during this challenge, I can still feel gratitude and still feel joy for others, even though there's a lot of other things that are being brought up too. Like, that does feel like a huge win.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, some days were better than others, and I kind of felt myself like teeter. So like, you know, but I definitely feel happy that I was able to kind of like get through it and, you know, feel okay.
And acknowledge yourself in it, right? It sounds like you companion yourself and notice it rather than like suppressing or ignoring it, you know, like
it wasn't always like that.
No. Right.
Yeah. And it may not be for the next thing. So that's why I definitely define it as a win, because I'm really super proud of myself for kind of the way that I'm kind of navigated this week. So.
Yeah. It's definitely no surprise to us why your son Mason is such a kind, loving, empathetic person, because he has you for a mom.
Thank you. That means so much to me. It really, really does. Thank you.
Yeah. And that's awesome. And I love the frame of like, this is an extension of his family, and because you're his family, right? And these are parts of your life, right? And it does certainly not going to be easy. Family is tough. Family is drama and insane sometimes. And so I feel like, woo, wow. I'm thinking about like, I don't know how I would handle that situation. You're a bigger person than me.
I thought that too.
Yeah. You know, it helps. So she's Mason's stepmom is so lovely. And like always
that helps, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh my God. She's like wonderful. And you always hope that, that your ex ends up with someone that loves your child, like the way that you hope them to. And she does. And she's going to be a great mom of two. And I think, it's going to be, Mason is like so over the moon. We're actually going to FaceTime with them after this. So we're so excited. We don't even know the baby, so we'll find out.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's so exciting.
So exciting. So I'm glad I'm able to be like excited about it with me. Yeah.
Yes. Powerful. Beautiful. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much, Chrissy, for being with us today. It's just been, the best.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me and for creating a forum that allowed me and so many other people to feel comfortable enough to share our hearts. Because I think that what you guys are doing, I wish I would have had this when I was younger. Like younger me would have needed your podcast. So I think what you guys are doing is incredible. So thank you.
Thank you.
That means so much.
So much to us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right. So share with our listeners how they can connect with you.
Okay, so I have a little blog on Instagram. I call it a blog, but I guess by definition it's not. But it's, on Instagram, and it's Our Comfy Abode. So our.comfy.abode. And it's on Instagram. I'm also on like Pinterest, and I'm trying telling my friend I'm on the TikTok right now. No idea what I'm doing. I feel like a real elder emo, but like I'm mainly on Instagram, and on there I just kind of share like how we create a safe haven, comfy home here, but also recognize the fact that we can do that while listening to some emo pop punk and like being who we are inside. So not putting yourself in a box, so to speak. So yeah.
It is an awesome account. Y'all go follow it ASAP. Oh, thank you so much again, Christy. This has been just such a joy and an honor.
Yes,
thank you. Thank you. This was wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Just obsessed with this conversation.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I don't throw around like soul sisters or soulmates or I just felt that connection. It's just always amazing when you meet someone for the first time and you're like, I feel connected.
Yeah.
I don't feel anxious.
Right. It's about the non-small talky anxiety, right?
Yes.
It's just, it feels like immediate, like I could be friends with this person kind of energy. Yes. Oh my gosh. This conversation with Christy just leaves me feeling tingly and warm and smiley and loved. I don't know if that's a weird one, but like I there's just something about just the way that Christy communicates not just her own story, but how she feels in a moment that feels special to me. And I feel just super grateful and honored that she wanted to connect with us about her anxiety journey, just her relationship with OCD and depression and medication and therapy. I mean, she just had so much to offer us and the warriors. Just makes my heart so happy.
Yeah. I just feel grateful that this is what we do because, like everything she was sharing, again, I was like, I can relate so hard to your story. And it just makes me feel more seen, even though it's her story. And it just makes me feel like more connected to humanity. Right. And meanwhile, also like, because it's just always that constant reminder, like we always see the external, but we don't really know someone's internal experience unless they share it. Right. And so, it like, and I just feel like she truly embodied what she's been like working on, I just thoroughly enjoyed connecting with Christy.
Yeah. I think my first takeaway is it's just, as you kind of just said, it's how I felt connected to her story, even though it's different, especially through a lot of the obsessive compulsive stuff, right? It's like
Yes.
it makes me want to like run to therapy and find out like, hey, can we do one of those tests where you tell me if I have OCD or like even on some kind of mild level? Because and I kind of mentioned it when you and I had our conversation about like perseverating and obsessive thoughts and
Mhm.
how we were trying to be sensitive to those that were diagnosed. It's like maybe we should have been like, talking
We
about
should
this.
have seen if we should get the diagnosis first. Maybe we do have. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, totally. So I just, as you kind of just said, I just felt really seen in this conversation, how even though there's so many differences between certainly how we were raised and the experiences that we've had as individuals, but I just felt like a lot of folks I'm sure could relate to the overthinking and being over analytical. And she made that kind of like random offhanded comment in the beginning where it was like, I drive home from a situation or an interaction and I'm just like thinking about all the ways in which I could have done it differently or better. And I could just really resonate with that. So I just think I'm kind of just grateful in knowing like, okay, once again, you're not crazy. You're not alone. There are other people like Christy that are experiencing this stuff.
Right. Right. I mean, that's kind of like my takeaway too. Right. And like, exactly. Like when she said, when you turn around, like you're driving in the car and you turn around to check, like my heart was like, oh my God, thank you. Like, because I've done that. And like, I laugh about it, but it is emotionally exhausting. And I don't do it that often, but like, I already remember the times where I'm like, down the street, like a few stop signs away. And I'm like, I know the garage door is closed, but I still need to go back and check because otherwise I will just have this unease inside of me.
Right.
And so part of my takeaway is just like, just really appreciating her sharing that part of her story, because it helped me. And I thought it was super relatable. And I also really appreciated how she talked about it in a way like it's hard to explain, right? Like you can't bring logic to perseveration. You can't bring rational thinking to obsessive thoughts, right? Like it doesn't matter if someone's like, you checked the door, because it's this feeling inside that's like, no, I need to check it again. And until that feeling goes away, where I can walk away feeling ease, like the way she shared that part of her story and the feeling sense, I feel like was so important, because logically we get it. It's like, yeah, I know I probably locked the garage door, but the feeling, right? And then in that takeaway, I would just say that I appreciated what her therapist had offered her was take a picture, because I'm going to try that now, right? And I'm going to see how that works. So that was like a really helpful takeaway. It's like, oh, here's a practical way that I can apply when I think I leave the garage door open. I can just take a picture so I can remind myself multiple times, no, it's closed, right? Like I took a picture. It's closed.
Yeah. Totally. I see. It sounds like it's helped, right? Certainly helping her. So why couldn't it help you potentially? Right. I love that.
Yeah.
And just that kind of leads me into my other major takeaway. There's a bajillion. I feel like we could talk for like hours about our takeaways alone, but the other major one is just like thinking about the way Christy talked about her team of people, like air quotes, the team effort of helping herself through things. And she talked a lot about self-care and not pouring from an empty cup, and how taking care of yourself isn't selfish. And in that, I just love the way she seems so open, right? Open to receive whatever new methodology, whatever new way of connecting or dealing with her emotional experience or physical experience or whatever it is that she's going through. She just seems so open and willing to receive the truth of her body, the truth that her mind is offering her, like, and just going with the flow. Just that fluidity is my other big takeaway in this conversation. What a great reminder of like, our story isn't a straight line. Our journey isn't linear. And the quicker that we can learn to ride the wave, right. And take our team effort of tools and people and coping strategies with us, the more we'll be able to live with ease and gentleness.
Right. well, shucks, that was my takeaway in different language and words. But that really, really stood out to me too, was what I really appreciated was throughout her story, she embodied that non-attachment piece. She embodied this is how it is for me right now. It doesn't mean that's how it's going to be for me ever. Right. She really embodied that, like that mindfulness piece. And yet she also held the piece of like, it doesn't mean it's easy. Right. Just because I'm practicing going with the flow, and just because I'm practicing giving myself grace, and just because maybe at this point in my life, I'm stronger at it than I've been before I had the skills, it doesn't mean it's easy. And for me, like, I don't even know what exactly the takeaway was, except for just like the power and the vulnerability in that, right? The ability to really acknowledge that, the only constant is change. And so we can always just be approaching life with non-attachment, but also how hard that is.
Yes.
Right. And by making space to check in with ourselves, to care for ourselves, it kind of can help with the okay, this is where I am now, and I'm going to try to stay here, rather than get stuck in the past or loop into the future and predict things that I can't predict. Right. Like,
yes.
Yeah,
totally. Ooh. Oh my gosh, Christy. We know you're listening, girl. Thank you so much for being a guest on our show. Warriors, we hope you loved this conversation as much as we loved having it. If you'd like to connect with us for any reason, you can join our Instagram fam. We're at Anxiety Warriors Podcast, or feel free to shoot us an email at anxietywarriorspodcast@gmail.com. Shout out your wins of the week. Let us know if you think you'd be an awesome fit as a guest on our show. We'd love to help you tell your story here on our platform. And please, if you can, take 2 seconds and smash that 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're tuning in. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hop on into our show notes and click the link for Threadless to support our show in style, with buying some cool ass Anxiety Warriors Podcast merch.
Control enthusiasm is quite a popular thing many of us anxiety warriors share. So
yes, it came up several times today.
Yep. I think it comes up with all of our warriors are enthusiastic for control.
I love that. In that moment, you just kind of did this like jump in your seat with your arms up, like enthusiastic.
I'm enthused for control and stuff.
Yes. And of course, we have our recovering people pleaser stuff over there, and everything comes on just like awesome stuff. Shirts. Yeah. We're in hoodie season now.
Maybe we'll drop a new design. You never know.
Yeah. We talked about the 80s and 90s, like we typically do pretty much every week, not just for ourselves, but with our guests. And so we've got our cool like retro logos up there too.
Yeah.
All right. So warriors, we love you so much.
Yes. Thank you all so much for going on this journey with us. We're so grateful we get to do this with you all.
Till next time.